start with a roll call.
Tom Aiden, Sam Battle,
Present.
Barry Hubbard,
Here.
Jim Onderko,
Here.
Dawn Cowart,
Here.
Derek Tedrow,
Here.
Mayor Whitfield.
Here. So we have one absence from Tom Aiden, and he may be joining us here shortly. But we'll start with the approval of the minutes from the May 2nd meeting. If there's no modifications or changes recommended, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Battle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Today we have one planning commission case. It's the Elyria Public Library for 340 15th Street, requesting a waiver of the design review guidelines for the use of colors on the proposed mural. Is someone from the Elyria Public Library system here to present this? And if so, please come to the microphone. So please state your name and address for the record.
Sorry.
My name is Jennifer Starkey. I'm director at Elyria Public Library. The library address is 211 2nd Street. That's the central branch. What we're discussing today is in regards to our south branch on 15th Street. I don't know the street address number for the property off the top of my head.
Okay. And do you want to give us an overview of the project?
Sure. The project initiated with a longstanding partnership with Leaders of Today, a community group that does public art projects, and they have been working with us to learn what the library's vision would be for a project like this. There's been student involvement. The students, these are mostly Elyria high school students, have come up with components of the design, which they submitted to a professional muralist, Chad, who is here today representing Cleveland Mural Company, who then took those visions and put them together into one kind of unified piece for the library. This design, to me, really has a lot of joy and positivity in it. The theme of the mural is positive mental health, and we think this would be a nice addition to our space and to really kind of give something beautiful and colorful to the community surrounding the South Branch. So I brought this to our board, and the board is in support of going forward with the mural project. As I understand, murals aren't necessarily pieces that last forever, so we intend to, keep it up to the best of our ability. I know we've worked with Chad to come up with a plan for handling situations like any kind of damage or graffiti or just like general upkeep kinds of things. So Chad is going to help us out and keep it looking fresh for as long as the life of the mural would be. And then after that point, the brick that it's on is, if you look at the top picture there, is not a particularly attractive facade. There's nothing special about the brickwork on that side. So, if down the line in the future we decide to cover it up or paint another future mural on that facade, that's also an option. But we count on us to take good care of it and to keep it looking nice.
Thank you. Can we have a staff report?
Yes, through you. Design review guidelines discourage the use of high intensity, high reflectance, fluorescent, metallic colors, except as approved for building trim. So as you can see that this proposed mural utilizes a variety of color and encompasses pretty much the entire one elevation of the building. Furthermore, any murals in the past have always been brought before Planning Commission. Community Development does recommend approval of this waiver.
All right, so a couple things. Mr. Battle, I'll pass the floor to you. He is, go ahead, Mr. Battle.
I'm on the Elyria Library Board, so I'm gonna have to abstain.
So with that, my question to you, we do have a quorum here today. Would you like to proceed with today's hearing? We don't have a full body here, but we do have a quorum. Would you like to proceed?
Yes, we would like to proceed.
Okay. So, Chief Farkas, is this something where we're looking for proponents and opponents, or is this strictly up to the commission?
Yes, sir, it'd be the same format.
Okay.
If I may, for my zoning, it is brief. The zoning does indicate compliance. It's zone business neighborhood district. Contingent, the verbiage stays within 8 square feet maximum.
Okay. So, thank you for that. Are there any other proponents? Any other proponents? Any other proponents? Other proponents? Yep, you can come on up.
Hi, how's everybody doing? My name's Matt Bonson. I'm the manager of the South Branch of Elyria Public Library. I would like to say that the mural, I think, is an important step in driving home to the neighborhood the changes we're trying to make at the South Branch. We're trying to make this a center for people to grow and to learn things, and that's not limited to things that can help you achieve career. You can learn things about yourself and how to be a better human. And I think that this mural ties in very well with that general idea. This will also be facing our community garden that's being worked on by LTCAA and our family. So I think that that is a nice duality of the garden bringing life through food and the art bringing life through culture to the neighborhood. And I think this would be an incredibly positive step for that area in tying in our new mission at South. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, thank you. Are there any other proponents? Any other proponents? Any opponents? Any opponents? Are there any opponents? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the waiver of the design review guidelines for the use of colors on the proposed mural by the Elyria Public Library.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hubbard. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Derek. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. And are there any abstentions?
Abstain.
One. All right, thank you. Motion passes. Next, we have 3 public hearings. The first one is Helping Hands Child Care, 449 Midway Boulevard, requesting a variance pursuant to Chapter 1137.15B7B of the Elyria Codified Ordinance, requesting to construct a small, square-foot enclosed retractable fence. Is there anyone from Helping Hands Child Care here? All right. Mr. Fisher, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Yes. Gary Fisher, 554 West 9th Street, Lorraine, Ohio.
All right. Could you give us an overview of the project?
Certainly. So the former Family Christian Stores space is being occupied by Helping Hands Child Care. They are required by state law to provide a small outdoor play area. And rather than build a permanent fence out in front of the building, for the protection, it's really for the protection of the kids. They try and keep the kids out of sight when they're out there, and to keep them, obviously corralled in a space that they can monitor. So they have opted to provide if you're familiar with, like at the movie theater, the Tensa barrier railings that they have. If you can imagine, it's a fence, but it works almost like a horizontal Venetian blind. So it slides back into the pole when they're not out there. When the kids are going to be out, they put the fence material up. When the kids go back in, they take the fence material down. Provides enough protection for them that it meets the state code and keeps the kids out of sight, because you do have foot traffic by there. And it's really that simple. It's about that high. So
And
about
this
5
is in the
feet.
back of the building.
It's actually at the front of the building.
Yeah,
So
I have
there's-
some questions about this, but yeah, keep going. I'm sorry.
So again, as minimal as it can be, it is next to, if you look at the corner that it's in, there's kind of an area that hangs out from the space that's next door that the furniture store occupies. So it really just corrals in that little front area.
So, I don't know if we should do the staff report first, or if I should go ahead and ask my questions. Okay, go ahead. If we can do a staff report, then I'll ask.
Mr. Chair, through you. Mark, could you put that slide back up of the fence location, please? For the panel's use, before I go into my report, you can see this location of the fence in this particular submittal encompasses both emergency exit doors. The revisions we received on 3/22/23 depict the fence going between the doors. That was something that we have agreed that would be in essence of a life safety concern, and I do believe the fire marshal will agree. I know multiple revisions were received. I don't know, Mr. Fisher, what version this is.
You are correct in that. Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't forget to point that out. So, yeah, since this has been turned in, that's been resolved. And actually, the fence moves over to be between the two exit doors.
So that would take away most of our concerns from a building code standpoint. And with that, I'll do my report with your permission. The request. The proponent is requesting a variance from the codified ordinance section 113715B 7B to install a 5-foot, 3-inch high by 37-foot in length retractable fabric fence in the front of the site listed. My findings. The current zoning of the property is business general, the requirements of which are located in the codified ordinance chapter 1160, of which defers to accessory uses governed under chapter 1137 supplemental district regulations. Number 1, the proposed fence is indicated to be in the front yard of the site near the front entrance area of the building. A variance is required from section 113715B7B, of which requires the fence be no higher than 4 feet and be installed 50-50 open. What that means is that is your standard picket fence. You have a solid slat of 4 inches, you have to have a gap of 4 inches. That is what the code is saying. Number 2, I requested the fire department provide input regarding a possible fire lane restriction due to the proposed location of the fence. I'll let Mr. Gall respond to that. And third, please refer to the email correspondence dated 5/12/23 and 5/16/23, copy attached in my report, received from Morgan France, the tenant coordinator of Carnegie Management and Development Corp. Regarding the fence in question. Per the correspondence, the proposed fence is not authorized by the ownership, but would be if installed per the regulations listed herein. And I wrote a separate permit is required for the install of the fence and any for future signage. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Chief Farkas. Assistant Chief Gall?
Through you. We were asked to look at the fire lane, fire access for emergency vehicles. I measured the sidewalk area in front of the building, which is about 32 feet from the front to the curb, and another 40-foot drive that runs parallel to the front of the building. The side to the north is unchanged. My measurements are right. The area to be fenced in is about 12 feet, so that leaves a 20-foot sidewalk, and then still with the 40-foot emergency vehicle access. Fire department has no concerns. That's more than the required by the Ohio Code of 20 foot. So. The other area I would share is that, as chief official said, the fence was to split the 2 doors. One was free. There would be no obstructions to the entry or exit. And then the other one would exit if the fence was in place through a measured area, and then they would install a fire-approved exit door with a panic bar. For the general knowledge, an exit has 3 components: an exit access, the exit, and the exit discharge. I would talk mostly now about just the discharge, and that's part of the exit route that leads directly outside or to a street, a walkway, a refuge area, a public way, or an open space with access to the outside. So shall be free of trip hazards and unobstructed path to the public way. I believe that the design professional said they would not have permanent fixtures within the egress aisle
That's
through the
correct.
playway? Okay. And the panic bar would be installed. There's restrictions on the height, a minimum of 34 inches off the ground, 48. I think your fence will top out about then, so. Sign should be posted on the exit, the door. Should swing in the direction of travel. It's using an enclosure, which I consider this. I believe, too, that an important thing would be to incorporate an emergency action plan with the staff, train them, so when the fabric fencing is up, should an event occur, staff would know proper actions to take during such time. And again, parking lot that's readily accessible by emergency vehicles, including fire apparatus, squads, or police. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Assistant Chief Gall. Any questions for the staff or for Mr. Fisher?
I do. I guess my first question is, the variance is specifically to allow it in the front of the building, and then the height, am I understanding that correctly?
Mr. Chair, through you, to Mrs. Calvert, yes, our codified ordinance states that any fence in the front yard cannot exceed 4 feet in height. This is proposed at 5'3", and that it be at least 50-50 open. This is a proposed solid slider that's 5'3" high.
So my follow-up question to that is, why did y'all choose this? Why did y'all choose to do a retractable? I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah, so they were trying to come up with a creative solution that didn't block the front of the building because it doesn't have to be up 100% of the time. So it's only when the kids are out there. So they're trying to satisfy the state requirement to have a fenced-in play area. The other requirement is that it's difficult to grab a child out of that if someone is going by. So that's where we get the
So my follow-up, so the proposed play area is the front of the building?
Correct.
I think could you pull it up on Google Maps? I love this
Here, I
view
have
you got
some.
right here. I want everybody to see what you got right here.
Here, do you want to use this?
Well, that's being pulled up. I do have an
Yeah, while
additional-
he's pulling that up, Mr. Hubbard has a question.
Yeah, for Mr. Farkas.
Mark,
or-
if you could pull up Google Maps, go on Google Maps and pull it.
For really either one of you, I guess I'm a little confused. As part of your memo, you also included, it looks like some back and forth with the tenant, or with the landlord, or at least the tenant coordinator from the landlord. What is the current status? Because it sounds like they're asking for something different than this application is asking for. Or am I misreading that?
Mr. Chair, through you, the last correspondence they sent me is of what I attached. They were very clear that they would be in favor of the request, contingent it complied with our code, 4 foot high, 50-50 open. They are, from what my phone conversation was, not in favor of this. And from my conversation with Morgan, this was brought to the attention before they were even in this building. Because I guess it was already proposed to have the area in the front yard, and they were also concerned from what I gathered, they didn't want to go through any kind of variance or appeals process. They wanted to keep above board.
And I noticed, real quick though, because I want to make sure so is this also associated with Sparkle?
Yes, that's the
Okay,
element.
I have to abstain from that. That is my stepbrother, and his wife, so I have to abstain from the discussion. I didn't see their name listed, but let me abstain from the discussion and the vote.
So I guess my question though is, it sounds like the state is requiring a 5'6" fence. The building owner is saying it can't be anything more than 4 feet. Is that about where we're at right now?
I don't enforce the state requirements. I can't speak to that. But as far as our local ordinance, it can be no higher than 4 feet.
And that's what the landlord's willing to
And that's
go
what the
for.
ownership is in favor of.
And I guess for the proponent here, you're saying 5'6" is necessary based upon the state requirements for the play area.
That's what the owner passed along to us, or I should say the tenant passed along to us.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a mismatch from my perspective.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things that the property owner said was, oh, well, can't you just put a 6-foot-tall white vinyl fence up here? And we said, no. You know, that's the whole process here. We're trying to do something that, number one, can be removed without, you know, great damage to the sidewalk or the facility if they would ever leave. And, you know, it just is not out there 100% of the time. We're trying to create something that it only needs to be a fence when they have a couple of kids out there.
If I may, I have some significant concerns about this being in the front of a commercial building that could potentially see a lot of traffic.
Mm-hmm.
How sturdy are the bollards for this fence? How sturdy is the fencing itself? I mean, I'm particularly concerned about somebody being able to access the interior of that fence easily while there are children at play there, and the safety of that, as well as, God forbid, an accident where a car runs into this fencing while
So there are
other kids in there.
steel bollards that are spaced along there to prevent traffic from coming in there that are separate from this fence for just that purpose, to prevent cars from impacting that if they would come up and over the sidewalk. Staff is out there 100% of the time with the students, so it's not that the students are left unattended out there. There's always 2 staff members, depending upon the number of students, there's staff out there with them. And given the area, you're really going to have probably 4 to 5 students at a time out there. So it's not that, you know, it's not that it's not manageable for a couple of people to keep track of people. The height, you know, obviously someone bending over, let's say a quarter. So that's the purpose of going up that extra foot. That 4 foot doesn't allow the same amount, or the ease of, you know, snatching someone out there and being able to run away.
Thank you. And the fabric itself, is it weather resistant? Is it sturdy? Like, can you tell us anything about the fabric?
It's basically like a Gore-Tex fabric, so it's made to take the weather, not fade. It's a rip preventative material. It's actually made for this, to use around for like privacy around pool decks and things like that on your own, you know, patio.
Just go along with that, I had questions about the fabric itself, and obviously it's some type of outdoor fabric, but how wind resistant is it? You know, just from weather, I don't know what the rules of the, you know, of the daycare for being outside with certain weather, but just being out there open, you know, a giant sail, is it, you know, going to be even more open to potential rips? And then since this is going to be constantly being opened and closed, you know, how, you know, is this product meant to, you know, constantly be open and closed, or is it meant to be open and closed and not fooled with constantly? I'm just thinking more about the safety of the product either failing when you're not expecting it to, or, you know, it's just looking bad for the other tenants as well.
It's made to be open and closed. So that's something that is, you know, it's exactly meant for this type of use. And without it operating properly, they're not allowed to use the outdoor play. So if it would fail, if the product or the mechanism would fail before they could use it again, they would have to replace that. And they are required to have outdoor play area, so that it has to be replaced. You know, to maintain their license, they have to have the outdoor play, so they do have to replace those whenever they would go bad.
Yes, Mr. Battle.
Yes, on the fence, I have a question about the fence, and I have a question not related to the fence. Question about the fence is, what about if I show up late with my kid, everybody out in the play area? What would happen? How could I get my kid into the situation?
There are 2 doors. So there's a door to the left and a door to the right as you face the building. The door to the left will always be open. That goes into the main lobby, the office area, lobby area. So that a child showing up late would go into that area. And not every kid will be out on this play area at any given time. There'll always be staff inside the building. I'm sorry, yeah, and that's normal. It's allowed. They're allowed to have hard play. They have soft play inside. There's a large play area inside as well.
Will there be any kind of equipment out there?
No. Other than what they would, carry out and play with and then carry back in.
Are there any other questions from the commission?
Yeah, I guess I'm still a little confused. I see at the bottom of, Mr. Farkas's memo, it says, due to the response from the ownership's management coordinator, I would be in favor of the request contingent it is installed per zoning regulations herein. If it was installed per the zoning regulations herein, does that meet the needs of the applicant here?
That's the problem. That's where we get into the daycare laws. So the daycare laws are the owner's telling us that, or the tenant is telling us that they need it higher to meet the state requirement.
Am I correct in thinking that Mr. Farkas, that you would not be in favor of it then as proposed in the application?
That is correct. And as a footnote, Sparkle had a former daycare at the new Taco Bell site, right around the corner. And they also put up a fence. It was 4 foot high, black iron with an emergency escape egress panic hardware. I don't know if the state regulations have changed since then, but I would be curious to see that.
Are there any other questions from the commission? So, Mr. Fisher, we do, the mayor has to abstain. We
Sure.
do have a quorum. Would you like to move forward with the vote at this time?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any proponents? Any proponents? Any proponents? Mr. Oswald?
Kenny Oswald, 237 Pepperdine Drive. Thanks for letting me speak. In his opponent, just a question. The drop-off and pickup of the kids, I guess what Dawn mentioned, do the parents have to come in, get the kids, and walk out to the car? Or are they driving along here? Because I don't know if these little ones would run out to the car and then go out in the street. Is there maybe a buffer barricade or something? So I guess that was just a question, safety of the kids getting picked up and dropped off. Thank you.
The children are always accompanied in or out of the building, so if they're being brought in later, as somebody had requested, they would be brought in by the parent. It's never just a run out to the car kids. It's always an orderly progression. People usually have to sign their children out when they come and pick them up at the end of the day, or sign them in the morning. If it's a drop-off, it happens at the curb with staff there receiving the kids in. I'm not sure how they operate. I'm going by what I've seen in other daycares, and I know that per law, they can't just drop them off and let them run in the building or out of the building. Does that answer your... The kids wouldn't be not accompanied walking into the parking lot. The parents would always be coming in to grab them. Yeah, they have to sign them back out and say that they picked up their child. Again, all this is, really for the safety of the kids, and that's what we tried to create the most minimal request as possible to create something that, we felt was relatively temporary in its nature and by how it operates, that it doesn't affect the appearance of the front of the building except when it's open, and we're talking, a few hours during the day, sporadically, and then kind of disappears after that. So we're trying to do what is minimally invasive on the site.
Thank you. Do we have any opponents? Any opponents? Last call. Any opponents? All right. I am looking for a motion to get this on the floor. Helping Hands Childcare, 449 Midway Boulevard, requests a variance pursuant to Chapter 1137.15, B7B of the Elyria Codified Ordinance, requesting to construct a small square-foot enclosed retractable fence. Do I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Tedrow. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Battle, second? Oh, Mr. Underko, okay. All right, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion failed.
Thank you, Mrs. Calvert. So you want to talk through the next steps for you, Mr. Fisher? You may be familiar with the next steps, but are you familiar, or do you need us to go over the next steps? Okay, Mr. Chief Farkas, if you could go over what the next steps are.
The next steps would be to refer this to council for another opinion. But for the board's use, and this is for Mr. Fisher, I have granted multiple partial occupancies for this structure due to the life safety nature of this proposed fence. If it were indicated by the design professional that the fence was to be omitted, I could grant a full occupancy, as I don't govern the state regulations for outside play area. If it is continued to council, I would have to grant another extension until it is heard before that format, which I'll leave that up to the design professional to decide, but I just wanted the panel to be made aware as Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. Next, we have Taco Bell. Normally it has something before the, but we have Taco Bell, 1551 West River, requesting a variance pursuant to the Elyria Codified Ordinance, requesting more than 3 wall signs, and also requesting a waiver of the design review guidelines for an internally illuminated monument sign with a white background. There's someone from Taco Bell here representing, and if you could please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Major Harrison with Major Source, representing Taco Bell, P.O. Box 18869, Cleveland, Ohio, 44118.
Do you want to give us an overview of the project, please?
Yes, going with the first item, the variance to request more than 3 wall signs. This particular property is unique in the way that it has a point of egress and egress along West River Drive, as well as in the mall parking area. It is the thought process of Taco Bell that this complex is hopefully awaiting new business, and we would like to have identification on the rear side of the building to identify that this is Taco Bell and that this is an access drive into the actual Taco Bell. The sign itself is very minimal in square footage. It's 7.33 square feet. It's very small in nature, and we don't feel that this variance that we're requesting is substantial, and that it helps them to navigate for future businesses in this complex, as well as transient visitors into the Taco Bell area. Thank you.
So you may have heard, we do not have a full body today, but we do have a quorum. Would you like to proceed with today's hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. The current zoning of the property is Business General District, the sign requirements of which are found in section 1174.12. The proposed total signage for the site exceeds the 3 signs permitted per the tenant space. The applicant is requesting a 4th. I've completed my review and am in favor, as we have granted something very similar for the Target most recently. Thank you.
And that was in regards to the 3 sign issue. So we'll do one issue at a time. The 3 sign issue, any questions around the 3 sign issue? Okay. Are there any proponents? Are there any other proponents? Any other proponents? Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? Are there any opponents? All right, dealing with the first one with the 3 wall signs, I'll entertain a motion to approve the request for a variance for Taco Bell requesting more than 3 wall signs.
So moved.
Moved by Jim, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Battle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, we have this internally illuminated monument sign with a white background. You want to speak to that, or we can go right to the report?
Yes, sir. Yes, this is a internally illuminated, ground sign, and we have worked very diligently with, Ms. Ashley Scott as well as, Mr. Farkas in this regard, and Mr. Ballard here. This is not unlike, any of the, other Taco Bells that are in the city of Elyria. Yes, it does have a white background, but the unique thing about what we're doing in the sign industry is that this has an applied second surface diffuser film. So this is not bright. In fact, this is less than 3-foot candles of illumination. So whereas it may come off on the drawings and in the daytime that, hey, this may be bright, is not, okay? The majority of the sign is actually black and then purple, and the model of the Taco Bell logo. So, thank you.
Has this sign already been installed?
Yes, and we apologize about that. We have submitted the necessary permits about this, so, yeah.
Yeah,
we apologize.
So I know, from my standpoint, so I guess I got a question, and it seems overbearing to me. When I drive by there, it's like, it's a huge Taco Bell sign. To me, it's too big, it's too bright. That's my opinion. And so from the variance standpoint, how far off are they in both of those categories in terms of the brightness, in terms of the size? Because I read your memo, but I'm not sure there's a decent comparison in terms of it should have been what size and they've made it what size?
Through you, so as far as design review goes, the issue at hand was the use of the white internally illuminated background. The design review guidelines prohibit white internally illuminated backgrounds for monument signs. So that's what the waiver, as far as design review goes, is requesting. Community Development did recommend approval of the waiver as due to past precedents, all other monument signs that have come before the commission in the past with the white backgrounds have been approved.
So from a size standpoint, it didn't exceed what our codes say, and from a size standpoint. Wow. Need to look at our codes then, because that's a huge sign. All right. What and then the illuminated background, you're saying that's the other piece. All right. What other questions do folks on the committee have for the staff or for or the applicant? All right. Are there any other proponents? Are there any other proponents? Any other proponents? Any other proponents? Any opponents? Any opponents? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the request for a waiver for the illuminated monument sign with the white background for Taco Bell. All those in favor, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Derek, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hubbard. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Nay. Motion carried.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good morning.
Next, we have UBC RE Holding, 201 East Bridge Street, Elyria, Ohio, requesting a variance pursuant to the Elyria Codified Ordinance, requesting a trash fence enclosure material. Also requesting a variance to the height to match the existing utility fence, and also requesting a waiver for the dumpster enclosed with a chain link fencing. Is there anyone from UBC Holding, 201 East Bridge Street, AKA Unplugged Brewery here? Okay. So Chief Farkas, do you want to give the report on this?
Sure. I'll tackle the dumpster height enclosure. The proponent is requesting several dumpster variances from the Elyria Codified Ordinance, specifically sections 1160.03, permitted accessory uses / location, and 1137-17B governing dumpster fence height. Note, the dumpster location and placement of the fence enclosure has been completed prior to design review or zoning approval, and a separate permit is required. Staff findings. The current zone of the property is zoned business general, the requirement of which is located in Chapter 1160 of the codified ordinance. Number one, the dumpster location is unclear, as the revised information submitted does not indicate the specific setbacks for the property lines. As of today's date, I've asked multiple times for an accurate site plan. I have yet to receive it. Number two, revised information dated 3/2023 depicts a dumpster with a fence height of 6 feet per Elyria Codified Ordinance, Section 1137-17B, requires dumpsters enclosures to be at least 7 feet in height. Unfortunately, the zoning was denied. As a note, the proposed alterations to the site also indicate an increase to the occupant load of the structure, 16 to 42, thus evoking a parking requirement of the Elyria Codified Ordinance. I mention this as a note because I still require an accurate site plan of the parking lot indicating compliance with Section 117502. As of 3/2023, I have yet to receive an accurate site plan. My recommendations, I offer no comment and will rely on the board's discretion regarding this matter. Thank you.
So this is a question for Jim. Because there's no one here, normally we ask if they want to proceed with the hearing, though we don't have a full board. What's your recommendation?
You don't have to be here. You can make the request. It's unusual not to be here to defend because no questions can be asked or answered. So you can go forward. You can table it, or for lack of the paperwork that we have not received, that may be the best way to do it so that we get their attention and they're here. But you do not have to be here. You can actually submit and just hope for the roll of the dice, not the best way to do it.
I think do we have folks here who wanted to speak on this? Is there anyone, were you here to speak on this? Were y'all here to speak on this? Y'all were? Okay. All right. So yeah, is that the pleasure of the commission to table this until they're here? Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion to table this item.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Calvert. Motion by Mr. Hubbard. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, the item has been tabled. Last, we have staff and commission reports. Summary of those have been provided here. If there's no questions on those.
I apologize, Mayor. They have 3 requests. I think we need to make sure it's clear for the record that there were 3 requests. If you flip to the next page, there's 2 more requests for 2 additional variances.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good point. So you want us to do each one?
Just so we make it clear for the record.
Oh, yeah, okay. For the record, that was tabling all 3 items that they had presented for us to review today. Okay. Hearing no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Battle, second by Mrs. Calvert. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
I still can't believe